Welcome to the Lambton Esports grand opening, where we've opened an arena here. We've announced an academic program, and we're starting a esports varsity team as well. There's been a lot of activity, so we're starting the stream a little late. So sorry about that. And I just wanted to thank particularly our guests for coming. A lot of them have flown from far away or long drives. And it's really an honor to have these people here today. It's been really cool. You guys have been really awesome. So I'd also like to thank Set to Destroy X particularly, and the guys that they have been helping us out with the stream, and they've been absolutely amazing. So they've been great. So the mics are just down there, just in case they're hidden from everybody. You can actually pick them up. And I just wanted to kind of start off, if everyone could do just a brief introduction and let us know how you got into the industry. It could be on.
And just in general, trying to create programs and experiences for students to get engaged in esports. I'm also a researcher at the University of Central Florida, where I've kind of spearheaded a lot of research on esports, and just trying to understand what it's like from the student perspective.
Thanks, James. My name's Neil Duffy. I'm the vice president of the Collegiate Star League. We are one of the world's leading collegiate esports communities. We're present on over 900 campuses in North America, 70 or so here in Canada, with 28,000 active student gamers across 10 different titles: League of Legends, Dota, Counter-Strike, StarCraft. We've got a really exciting league this year with over $200,000 in scholarships, and we're thrilled to welcome the Lambton varsity esports team.
Hi, my name is Kevin Hong. I'm from Twitch Student. I help run all of collegiate for North America and Europe for Twitch. I started in gaming and esports about 2 years ago. I was playing on a challenger team, try to get really good in this industry after watching League of Legends World Finals in season two. Decided that this was going to be what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life, and now here I am 2 years later. So I'm excited to be here. So thank you.
Hello. Hi, I'm Aaron Esser. I'm an online content creator for YouTube mostly. I do mostly Nerf gun videos, gaming videos, Call of Duty videos, a whole bunch of different stuff like that. I think I got invited here today because I'm right from here in Sarnia, and I'm a Lambton College alumni. So I'm super happy to be here. And thanks for the invite, guys. And it's awesome meeting everybody. So yeah.
My name is Sonia, or OMG It's Firefox, and I've been doing Twitch and YouTube for about 4 years. And I actually went to Lambton College. I took CPRO, and now I'm here. Now I'm hanging out. That's all I got.
My name is Charles Watson, owner, founder, and CEO of Set to Destroy X Esports, based out of Kitchener, Ontario, Canada. We were founded back in 2010. We currently operate in 15 professional titles spanning across PlayStation, Xbox, PC, mobile gaming, and Nintendo Switch and Wii U. And then we also have a very diverse Twitch platform and content development team, as well as an esports documentary series as well. Very excited for the opportunity of working with Lambton Esports since the beginning of the year here, and ultimately moving forward with them as the program and the arena moves forward as well.
Great. So as you can see, there's obviously a huge swath of different parts of the industry here. Everyone's representing different parts. And as such, our talk is kind of going to be a little bit of everything. We did have a title, but it didn't really cover what we were covering. So I wanted to kind of ask Neil first. The esports industry itself is set to have year-over-year growth of around 41% to 696 million this year for revenue. How do you think that's going to translate to the collegiate esports space?
The growth is going to be exponential. We've already seen it on the Collegiate Star League side. I've been involved for coming up on 4 years. When I first started, we had 175 campuses. That grew the next year to 250. From there to 450. Last year, 9. competitive through the campus series in dual, or Division two, which is more casual or social, or Division two. It's an outlet that people can go with their gaming passion and be around like-minded people. So you're going to notice that it's going to start in the high school level. There's already teams forming and competitive play there, and then once you get to college, university, by the time that the next generation of students are coming through, you're not going to even have a differentiation between traditional sports and esports. It's all going to be about competitive play and inclusivity on campus, and then that'll translate across the board. And the growth is still, we're still in the infancy right now. In 3, 4, 5 years, the industry will be completely different.
Yeah, there's a lot of movement going on right now, and that's we're trying to get ahead of the curve here and kind of attack that right away. So yeah, we're seeing that too. Um, Kevin, so we've announced an actual academic program for esports. Um, how do you think graduates of these types of programs are going to be making their way into the industry? So what benefits do you see for those programs to be run?
Yeah, the direct benefit is creating a starting roadmap for these college students that are graduating. Because they participated in your program, it's kind of given them the couple first steps to really have a solid foundation. I think that's what we're missing directly in esports today. I think myself, and many others that are my peers kind of had to stumble our way into where we are now, and we're for students to get involved in the space. We don't need to hire from each other anymore. There's new students entering this space. There's new blood, new energy, new talent, and that's welcoming, and I think that's refreshing. Tired of getting from different companies trying to snipe each other. People come to Blizzard, people go to Riot, people go back and forth, people go to Activision or Facebook, Amazon, whatever. So it's great to just kind of see a new pool of talent. I think it's a space for everyone to be in. So I think college is taking the right steps.
All right, so feel free as well, if anyone has ideas, if they want to say something, feel free to grab the mic, if anyone. So switching to media from the individual perspective, so this is kind of an emerging category of sport, and it's different than other sports that we have, first of all, a fairly tech-savvy audience. There's the immediate personal media reach that's just built in. It's not like some other media organization grabbing something. People are going out personally, such as Sonia and Aaron, and creating their own brands and content without having to do much except for have a webcam, have some hard work and some software. As streamers, for you guys, what do you think the role of traditional media is going to be as we kind of have this feeling out process between new and traditional media?
Well, it's kind of interesting, and it's something that we all know, obviously, because we're here today, that there's something here. There's something in esports, there's something with collegiate esports, there's something just gaming in general. And now that I'm noticing that mainstream media is kind of trying to dip their toes into it, and they're trying to get involved, it's cool to see. And I think that the more exposure that it's getting, and the more people that are paying attention to it, and the more mainstream people that are paying attention to it, the bigger it's going to grow. And I think just the fact that they are paying attention to it now and trying to get into it, that there's something.
Can I input on that one?
Yeah, I think that the mainstream media just getting involved is just going to get bigger and bigger. I think YouTube and Twitch, everything is so much more on a personal level, and so you can just reach so many more individuals, and I think it just affects a larger media, massive people.
Just to add to that, I think when you're having traditional media really starting to come into the space, and as Sonia mentioned, kind of dip their toes into it, the biggest hurdle that all of ourselves as well as organizations or businesses is really about education to individuals that are new to this space, right? So once you have where TV's coming on board and doing leagues and broadcasting that content. What's really important is that you're educating individuals that have never heard of this or seen this or been immersed in that world yet. So that's an ever growing challenge that we're trying to fix and to help grow, not just as personalities but brands and the companies as well as just the normal industry and space as well. So it's really important about the education side.
Thanks. So I kind of wanted to ask you, James, since you've been around this so much, the varsity esports space is relatively new. Like they've club teams have been around for a while, but the actual varsity official sanctioned teams are fairly new. So do you have an idea of what the players' feelings are towards transitioning from a club team to an officially sanctioned varsity team?
Yeah, so the support that students are getting from their varsity campuses or their institutions now is tremendous, right? So if you look at an institution like I don't know, the University of California, Irvine, back in the day, they were able to attract thousands of students who would get involved in their clubs, and now they have a way to actually provide a large amount of content to those students. That have a facility on campus that has, as their place. They don't have to go running around campus looking for a room that can house them anymore, and just having that support from the administrators to show that this is something that's real, something that their passion is something to really try to grow out. Yeah, just the shift has been tremendous for the students.
Do you feel that there's any, so we are transitioning to officially sanctioned teams, and we have had instances, quite a few instances from a club team where players will go pro and they'll have to leave that team. I know there was talk about the CSL panel, the grand finals there. So what are your feelings on that from a school perspective to try and keep people to do the program, finish up, graduate? What do you think the school's role is in that, and where do you see it happening?
Yeah, I see. As long as schools really have an understanding and a pathway to the success of those students, so that they know what to expect when students leave to become professionals, and kind of understanding how they're going to be filling that role in the future, what considerations a student should have when they look at these team contracts that are being given to them. I think a lot of screening through the potential futures for their students and just helping to provide their expertise is going to be critical. I think Neil could probably talk a lot more about this than me, though.
Sure. I think there's an interesting story here with the industry being so young and the contracts not being at the level, the pro contracts that is, not being on the level of the NBA or the NFL, where if you were to leave school as a junior to go play in the NBA, you're most likely going to be set for life. You're going to sign a multi-million-dollar contract. Whereas if you were an individual who was going to leave your scholarship and your program and then carry on to a pro career, the lifespan is much shorter in professional esports, and it's also much more unpredictable. So there was a case at UCI with this gentleman, Young Bin, who left to go compete for Team Liquid and League of Legends, and he was cut after one match, and he had to give up his scholarship, and he was academically ineligible. So he was really put in a tough position. Luckily, Steve and the guys at Team Liquid, they came in and they rectified that, and they're going to take care of him. But the institutions need to prepare their students and educate them on the sense that if you go out and you get offered a contract for $40,000 from one of these pro teams, and that's your annual contract, maybe there's some stipends or some bonuses that come into play with that, you're likely not setting yourself up for a great long-term trajectory. Whereas if you finish up your engineering degree or your business degree, you're going to have that background and that knowledge that you can then carry on and have a successful career, whether you choose to pursue esports professionally or in the administration side of it or the coaching side of it, or you get completely out of esports and just go into the general business world. You're going to have that knowledge and foundation to really set yourself up. So I think as an administration, it would be wise to monitor the students, create that relationship and open rapport where you can have the discussions about what each instance is and judge it by a case-by-case situation. The other thing I will speak about and the power of collegiate esports, I was having a conversation, it must have been 2 or 3 months ago now, with someone from Robert Morris University, which is one of the powerhouses when it comes to collegiate esports and the first founding varsity program. And they were in the recruitment phase with a student who was a passionate gamer, and he was trying to decide where to pursue his university career. And he was stuck between the great esports program at Robert Morris and the support and the foundation and the inclusivity there, or if he would go and accept his offer that he had from Stanford University. And for people that are a little bit older that recognize the power that comes with Stanford, it is a world-class institution. The Robert Morris is a great college, but it's in a downtown school in Chicago. If I ever brought that up to my parents, they would whoop me, say, "You're going to Stanford." But that shows the power of collegiate esports, where a student is more concerned about how he's going to fit in on campus and how he's going to fit in and make his friends and be a part of that community than he is about what the name on the piece of paper is at the end of the day.
Thank you. Kind of wanted to ask Charlie. We were talking at the event there a little bit about how we run an esports team. What is the best way to run an esports team? And do you see similarities between running a regular sports team and an esports team? I kind of see that there's big differences. So do you think they should be run similarly, or are there different things that should be accomplished there?
It's a great question. First of all, there's a lot of things that you can take from the traditional sports market. So it's really your recruitment, your development, how you want to develop a player, and really see that cycle from where they might be an amateur player and growing up to really being a veteran within that title or that game or whatever. So there's a lot of similarities that you can take from traditional sports market. But what differs, and Neil kind of touched base a little bit on it, I believe James did as well, is that the life cycle is a lot shorter, and it's as we are still in our infancy right now within the esports marketplace, there's a lot of work that needs to be done to get it up to that level, to where we need it to be, so that it is recognized, but not just the community and the industry, but ultimately, people outside of our marketplace. So there are a lot of similarities, but once again, it's a completely new field, and for ourselves that have been in this industry for 7 years, and Kevin mentioned this as well, is we didn't have the tools or the means to really know how we were doing it. So it's that old saying that first through the wall is a little bit bloody, and the individuals that really pioneered and developed this marketplace had really set a benchmark for everybody else moving forward, and it's that experience that's going to be able to work with a college like Lambton Esports and say, all right, we've done this, we've been there, we can help you with this, as well as with your student body, to not only work with them cohesively and efficiently as they're in their program and working at the arena, but ultimately setting them up for great success after the program. And Donna had mentioned that earlier today in the speeches and in the announcement, that once again, it's trying to involve yourself into an emerging market and know not where we are today, but where we're moving forward tomorrow, and how are we going to set our students and the people that enroll and ultimately invest their time and money into something that's going to lead to great success for them in the future and give them more opportunity. So that's what I think is really exciting for not only myself and Set the Destroy X, but ultimately all of us in multiple different facets. It's really exciting to be a part of.
Oh no, really quick. So I mean, looking at the intersection of traditional sports and esports, so there's a large amount of sports franchises that have been picking up teams. So look at the Milwaukee Bucks, the owners of the Washington Capitals, the Miami Heat, as well as in Europe, there's hundreds of different smaller football or soccer teams that have picked up players. But most of those are not run by those organizations directly, right? So the Miami Heat isn't coming in and running day-to-day team ops for those esports teams. They typically retain the talent, the esports business side, and make sure that the people that really, really understand the scene are coming in and organizing that, right? So they're not replacing staff completely, they're just providing more resources, the brand name, the logos, and really just showing that this is the intersection of traditional sports and esports. This is something that they're setting themselves up for the future for. Go for it.
Yeah, exactly to that point. So Collegiate Star League was acquired by Cineplex, which is in the same realm as what James is talking about, that they're looking at how can they engage the fan of tomorrow. Cineplex is a movie theater, movie exhibitor here in Canada, and they're looking how can we engage that next generation of fans. And the power of having a team like what Charlie's team is, they're a behemoth in the Canadian esports sector. But if you could have someone like MLSE who comes in with a structure that can provide that to a guy like Charlie around sales, sponsorship, distribution, media rights, press, all of that knowledge that the traditional sports sector has, having that kind of amplification pours gasoline on the fire in esports and makes everything that we're doing that much closer to that end goal of being on par with the traditional sports scene.
Yeah, it's been pretty amazing that, for content creators such as yourselves, like I had said before, that you guys can come up from just having a webcam and doing a lot of hard work and making it work, and you become a juggernaut in a relatively little period of time. And then there's got to be a cooperation between the traditional and new media. Seems to be kind of the way that things are going. So it's very exciting to see, and that's great. Now we were talking about a little bit about stability too within the organization. From a content organization perspective and everything is kind of up in the air. Like Sonia was saying, there are traditional companies coming in and dipping their toes in the water, and maybe they're leaving, maybe they're staying, or maybe they're bringing back or going more forward into this. Do you see a stability? This is for anyone. Do you see a stability eventually coming to this, in just basically not having everything so kind of up in the air?
Hard to say, because I feel like even on like a platform like YouTube, YouTube's been around forever, and then even I think it was like last year was the adpocalypse, where there was all this stuff came, or all this stuff was happening, all the advertisers were pulling out, and like personally, I was making 28% of my revenue on YouTube alone. So it's such a drop, and you never know when stuff like that's going to happen. You never know, and that was one of the biggest things when I was getting into Twitch and YouTube that I was told is that it's scary. It's scary. It's not something that you can depend on. Like always, kind of have like a backup plan. There's always something going on. There you go. Freshen it up. So yeah, it's hard to say if there's ever going to be that stability. Because I feel like it's part of the realm that we're in. But I feel like something like this, like especially at Lambton, starting the arena and having everything going on, it's definitely setting a precedent for other colleges and everyone else to join in and maybe get some sense of stability. It's tough in this industry.
Yeah, sorry about the noise there. You're doing a lot of work.
I did a nice little ambiances. It's nice.
Ambiance, yeah. Fall asleep to that. Great, so that's pretty much all the questions, but I just wanted to, if you guys wanted to say anything specifically, if you had anything that you wanted to bring up or kind of talk about at the panel, you can do that now, right?
Well, kind of on that last question, so about the stability of esports. So, I mean, I just look at like what's happening with the individuals in the scene as well. Like, I think it was Kevin that was mentioning that, in the past it was, us just hiring people that we knew, right? So we were just like, oh, I know Kevin, yeah, he worked with me on the project in university back in the day. Yeah, we'll pull him in, we'll get him to work on the project. Or like myself, like, I used to work with the Collegiate Star League back in the day, and now, working with Blizzard's Collegiate Esports Initiative, TESPA, doing something very similar. But I mean, like, we're starting to see that more and more people are starting to get involved, and we're starting to see, like just in general, more opportunities for everybody to get involved. Before it used to be like, oh, such and such got a job at XYZ, like, oh, now that job, that's one less job that I could get, right? It was a lot of like heavy envy between people like even 4 or 5 years ago. Now, there's so many opportunities out there. It's insane.
I think to follow up on the stability point, it's interesting for us around the room because we can look around and someone like Aaron or Sonia or just regular Lambton alum, but if you were to take them to a gaming convention, you wouldn't be able to really have a conversation with them because their fans would be pulling them in every direction. And the amazing thing for both of them, and Sonia especially, is her stability comes in building her personal brand and transcending just gaming. And she's going to be able to, and she has already from our small conversations, become someone who can be the face of ads and hosting other events and going into whether it be different industries and being successful in that. So although gaming is the launch pad, the end game is her personal brand and being a successful host and entertainer and really for people on the ad side of the business, she's a great conduit to the millennial audience or the younger audience to promote their products in an authentic way because she came up from the YouTube side and the Twitch side of the business, and that's the best way to get out and market. So her stability is pretty safe.
I'm blushing over here. Thank you.
So to talk about stability, we really believe, like at Twitch, we really believe in making our partners successful. We really believe that they can depend on us for creating the best tools to make them successful. There's no other ways around it. For us to make everything work, it's a two-way street. So that's why we built out such a crazy partnerships team. If you ever met anyone on our partnerships team, they do whatever it takes to make sure our partners are happy. And it's really simple if you think about it. The tools that we build, we ask our partners, like, what do you want us to build? Like, we're here, you're our boss. So that's how we look at it at Twitch. And I think when I was talking to Sonia, she was able to name like 3 or 4 people that work on my team. And that means it really helps to put a face to the name. So we make sure that we get to know everyone. Even at like the Twitch parties or like our spotlights or our meet and greets. It's really cool to just have the internet come out and really allow people to create content and be successful. And we're here to like make tools to enable that.
Twitch is honestly a family. I'll say
Right,
that.
yeah.
Every time I go to a Twitch party or an event, it's literally my second family. I just wanted to throw that in there.
And just to add on to that as well is when you're talking about disability, you almost see that right here on this panel. Is you have people from all parts of Canada and America, and from different aspects of something that's going to create stability when you bring all like-minded individuals that are passionate and enthusiastic about what they do and who they work with. That's literally the definition of stability right there, is being able to bring everybody together to the same goal or same vision. So that's once again, being able to bring everybody together is something very special, and that's what's happening here at Lambton Esports and Lambton College.
And as much as we talk about the industry being big with these huge news numbers, it's also very small. Charlie and I met for the first time, 3 years ago. We've collaborated on so many projects and tournaments, and really grown up over the last 2-3 years together, which has been a lot of fun to see the growth on his side, growing his team to what it is now, and coming on and winning a lot of our tournaments and taking our money. So kudos to that.
Great. Well, I guess that concludes it. I wanted to thank you all very much for being here and for the input. Again, the STDX team were great in helping us set up, and we just had, of course, James and Neil and Kevin and everyone helping us out, and it's been really fun this last day. So I want to thank everyone for also listening on the stream, and we actually do have a live audience behind us. So a whole bunch of people from the industry as well, and schools. Oh yeah, sorry. We actually did lead time for audience questions. I forgot. So, are there any audience questions you guys getting on the chat that we wanted to talk about,
Or anybody in the audience?
Yeah, anybody here?
There's a microphone up there.
There's a microphone right in the middle.
Hi, Charlie. I'm a little interested in the
There's
document.
a microphone.
Yeah, if you can get the microphone to the screen.
Hi, Charlie.
Hello.
I'm a little interested in learning more about the documentary that you mentioned. Are we going to be seeing you on Netflix or?
Yeah, so you kind of spilled the beans a little bit. But once again, we so at Set the Strikes, we in collaboration with Mike Stacks Baxter. I've worked with Mike for several years now. But right now we are 6 episodes deep into an esports docuseries that we are aptly naming Destroyers. And this is something that right now we are currently pursuing licensing opportunities and to work with such a platform as a Netflix or an Amazon or something of that case. That once again, we are right now not only showing the back end of what we are doing at Set the Strikes, and what we've done is we follow our competitive teams all over the world, from China to Paris to anywhere that you can think of. I think we've been out to more than 30 or 40 events just in the first 6 or 7 months here so far. But once again, it's in creating that content, it's going to give a window to someone that's maybe not familiar to esports or gaming or even the business aspects, and it's being able to capture those intimate moments or things that you don't see or don't witness personally. It is what we're really bringing forth into this documentary series, as well as really bringing towards the community and what we're doing here in Canada. And once again, as we're filming here this whole week, what we're doing with the college, it's being able to kind of bring all those things to be able to convey a message to someone that's in the industry or not, and say this is what we are and who we are and what we're doing and how we're tying everything together. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thanks. Sounds like another winner.
It is. Thank you very much.
Yes.
And I think the one thing that I appreciate the most about this too is that, and I kind of talked about it a little bit with a couple of you guys earlier, is a lot of people don't realize what goes into content creation, especially esports too. It's huge. There's so many behind the scenes things that you don't understand. People are like, oh, you play video games for a living. And whether that be for content creation or whether that is for esports. There's so much training, and there's tireless hours, and there's a lot put in, and not only just for what you're producing and what you're competing for, but your personal brand, and building your own business and keeping up with your social media and making connections, going to events and blah, blah, blah. all on no sleep. So it's very tiring, and a lot of people, don't understand what all goes into it. So it's really nice to have a window for people who don't maybe not even know anything about the industry in general, but getting a better sense of the nitty gritty of what goes into it.
Of course.
So I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too. And just to add to that, yeah, it's just not a 9-to-5 job. I can definitely tell. I'm sure I can speak for everybody here on the panel today. It's a 12 to 20 hour day. It's especially when you're an entrepreneur and you're passionate about what you do and being your own boss. There's literally no sleep, and that's really exciting. It's fun. It's hard work, but it's not made for everybody. But it's definitely it's for those people that are extremely passionate about what they do.
Yeah, there's a saying. I work 60 hours a week to avoid working 40 hours a week.
Exactly.
Do you want to talk how late you were up trying to get videos done for today?
That's right.
We were talking about that earlier.
Yeah, until
The
4
grind.
in the morning last night. And I got Q&A questions sent to me at 3. And I was like, I still got to edit this video out. But yeah, it takes a lot of work. I guess I can just add the stability that we were talking about earlier. That I think everything in this media is going to change. YouTube, Twitch, streaming, gaming, everything is going to constantly change. But the people who have the personality and just put the work in, they're going to be the ones that survive. The people that work hard, that go to the college here, and the people that put the work into things like this, it's just going to work out. And they're going to be the ones still standing at the end. So, yeah, that's my 2 cents, I guess.
Good. Well, we don't have.
Oh, yeah.
You're good? Okay.
So I just had some comments to make, and I feel like I have so many things going through my head, and everything that you guys are talking to is so relevant, and I feel like it's relevant to me from the perspective that I've been in the IT field for, I don't want to say how long now, and the fact that we're on the academic side too, and to see this coming together is really exciting. I think the one that's sticking out the most because of today is what Sonia brought up about all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. When people go to YouTube, they just see those videos, they take them for granted now. And you don't understand, like, this is, case in point, all the stuff going on right here to make this live right now. It makes everyone understand how hard these people work. And there are so many aspects to this field. And I guess if I could just ask for some opinions regarding, Lambton, we're just getting started in this field. We're really excited about it. We want to do it right. We want to do it for the students. We want to do it grassroots. For the esports community, and any advice you can give us as we move forward from here. Today is the day, so if you can anything you can offer, that would be much appreciated.
I was kind of speaking about it earlier when we were chatting a little bit. I think the biggest 2 things, especially with esports and everything, is consistency. Being consistent with what you're working on, and being consistent so people know. Especially for content creation, people know when to find your content or where to find it. But I think ultimately, the number one thing that I've probably learned in the last 4 years of doing this is taking care of yourself and not getting burnt out. Because I feel like Twitch and YouTube and any kind of content creation, you grow and you make money, and you gain this whatever for as much as the effort that you put in, if that makes sense. So when you realize that, hey, like I could just not take today off. I can keep going, and I can keep growing, and I can keep getting more of an audience, and I can keep, doing this and this, or I can get an extra video, and you keep going and you keep growing. You need to take kind of a step back and realize, and especially in esports too, you're probably like, I need to train a little bit harder for this, I need to keep going, I need to do this. Once you kind of take a step back, like kind of taking care of yourself and making sure you're not burning out and making sure that you're, listening to yourself and just taking it easy sometimes is extremely important. And that's probably the number one thing that I've learned in 4 years.
I think we can all take that advice.
Yeah, not even esports or gaming, in general. Take time for yourself. Yeah. It's my new podcast. Advice to Sonia.
I guess I would say let the students decide and let them create, enable them to succeed. And if they fail, let them fail and let them get back up. There's no other ways to learn other than that. From building the University of Washington Gaming Club and then going from there to Twitch. I've worked with many students around the world, and the ones that are most successful are the ones that are enabled by the peers around them. So you guys being their peers and now being their enablers, just let them do what they're good at, and yeah, that's all you have to do. Just watch them succeed and find other ways to remove obstacles when you can. But it's okay to fail.
Yeah, and I was just gonna kind of add that to Kevin just kind of stole that a little bit, but yeah, very well said. Is allow them to create, and as much as activity is so important, and being able to be genuine with your student body and who you work with as well is absolutely key. Is communication and the ability to inspire them to be able to want to create, and a lot of that is happening here with today's announcements and everything that's going on, and that's why you have so many people all believing in what's happening here in the vision, why you have so many different individuals and personalities and characters and partners and companies that are all working here together, is because they see it, and they see the communication and how everybody's working effectively together, and it's really being able to inspire not only the current individuals, but ultimately a new generation and generations to come as well.
Yeah, well said, Charlie. I think, Lori, the advice I would give is stay agile. The one thing that I will say, and I think we can all agree, your flexibility, David and Eric and Rick and yourself, our respect for you is immense at the pace that you guys have developed this program and made this launch happen. So stay agile, but also provide structure. When I think back to what I was studying in my university career, I went to University of Western Ontario and studied history and geography. Now, there's not a lot in my day-to-day that really provides me any benefit, other than I could name probably half the capitals of the world. But having a program like you guys are developing around relevant topics, whether it be someone's passion in esports or the business or economics of the industry, and giving them that foundation, is we can all agree that the industry that we got to know 3-4 years ago, or Charlie 7 or 8 years ago, is completely different than what it is today. So having the flexibility and agility in your program to develop and shift and see where it goes, and keeping your program relevant as you get new students. And those students then go into the marketplace and hopefully come back as mentors and advisors and give you direction on where the jobs are and where the jobs are heading, and then adjusting your program to fit the students of tomorrow. I think always listening, to Kevin's point and to Charlie's point, to the students, but also to the working professionals, and keeping that in mind, that you're creating not only the workforce of tomorrow, but the leaders of tomorrow, and keeping your program in line with that.
Excellent, thank you.
I think that's an absolutely perfect way to conclude this stream and this panel. So again, I really want to thank you guys for flying from far away and driving and the whole 9 yards. It's been one heck of an event. So thank you all for coming, and that concludes the panel for today. Obviously, we all watch this and spread the links and everything since it's been recorded. So that's about it. Thank you.